At age 23, I made over $200,000 playing poker. Join me on this journey in real time, starting from one single $300 buy-in at 1-2 to a game in Vegas where we buy in for $50,000. Here's where we're at now. Let's go. What's up, guys? We're actually parked today, so no eyes moving, no wobbly cameras. Before we get started, I'm gonna pound this Panda Express. Been eating a lot of Panda lately. I was gonna say I've been eating a lot of casino food lately, but I've also been eating a lot of Panda. It's really good, like 100 grams of protein, maybe 12 bucks. You can't beat it, and it's super convenient and quick. Granted, it may not be chicken, but it still is pretty good. So I'm gonna eat this before it gets cold, and then we're gonna get started with day 4 of the challenge. But it's technically like day 5 because I played the other day earlier in this week for like 45 minutes before I saw a movie with my girlfriend. And I think we lost every single hand, but we didn't even see like rivers. I just like raised or 3-bet pre-flop, got a few calls, and then just whiffed. Or put in a C-bet, whiffed. I think I won one pot. So we lost actually like $260, I think. I'll put the number right here. So we're going into this session down an additional, whatever that number is, which is unfortunate. So we just have a little bit more work to do today. But enough rambling. This is getting cold. You guys don't want to hear me talk anymore. Let me finish this, and then I'll see you guys down at the bell. Let's go. First hand of the day, Under the Gun makes it $10. I'm 2 seats to his left, and I look down at 2 red tens. Literally just sat down, so don't really have any reads on any of these players, but tens is a pretty good hand, so I make it $30. Folds back around to the initial Under the Gun Razor, who now makes it $60. Bit of a weird dynamic forming, but with 2 tens and he only has $100 in our stack, I don't know, maybe we're way ahead, maybe we're way behind, but for $100, I'm just going to get it in. And he pretty quickly makes the call as I figured he would, only for $40 more. We're off to see a run out. The run out comes King 7-7-3 Queen. So at this point, I can't really think of too many hands that we're even beating. And that is the case as he flips over pocket jacks. So we're in bad shape all along. And right off the bat, we're going to be down $100. So we're going to add on for another black chip. In this next one, we are on the button straddle. It's $5. We look down at ace deuce offsuit. There's 5 limps to me. I check my action. The flop looks pretty dang good. Comes 2-2-4 with 2 diamonds. We do have the ace of diamonds. It checks to me, and I'm going to be betting small here. I think I could probably be betting bigger too, figuring any overpairs not folding, any diamonds not folding. But I bet $10. We see the Under the Gun player and the +1 player make the call. The turn comes an ace. So what was already an amazing hand got even better. The only hand we really lose to is pocket 4s or pocket aces. But obviously, we're just never worried about these hands. Like, if they have it, it is what it is. It checks to me. I decide to bet $25 now, just trying to build a pot. And they both make the call once again. Not sure what to make of this. I don't think either player has that strong of a hand, considering they didn't raise me. So when the river comes the 10 of hearts, front door flush misses, nothing really changes. The Under the Gun player takes the betting lead away from me, and he bets out $60. The +1 player calls 60, so obviously I'm loving this situation. With only $220 in my stack, I think we only have 1 bet here, which is all in. The Under the Gun player asks the dealer in an excited manner if I am all in. So at this point, I actually am not feeling the best. Like, I'm pretty sure that he has a better full house here. As silly as it sounds, he pretty quickly calls, and I'm shocked to see the +1 player call for less. I think she had around $120 behind. I table my hand, and the Under the Gun player had 4 deuce. Wow. So we got extremely lucky there on the turn. And what's even crazier is that the +1 player had an ace in her hand. She had ace 6. So we hit a 2-outer there. Otherwise, we would have gone broke because we're obviously never folding trips with an ace kicker. Very crazy hand. Happy to be on the good end of it. In this one, we go ahead and look down at King 5 of hearts. There's a early position limp. I make it $12, maybe a little bit loose, but hey, here we are. Now, this player makes it $25. This is that same player who had the pocket jacks hand early on. In position though to a min click, he has around $200 behind or so. I decide to make the call. The flop comes 7-5-3, so we hit a pair. I'm happy to see him pump the brakes and check. We're ahead of hands such as ace king now, any big broadways. I think a bet actually serves best, as we can get some protection against some big cards and also just take the betting lead away from him. So I bet $15 and he makes the call. The turn is an 8. He checks it, and I think we probably still have the best hand here, but I don't think any worse hands are going to be calling another street, so I check it back. The river, unfortunately, isn't the best card. It is a queen, so we lose to some of those broadways that may have floated the flop. Praying that he doesn't put out a bet, because we're probably going to have to be forced to fold, but I'm happy to see him check. Pretty happy to take my pair of fives to showdown. I check it, and what the heck? He goes ahead and shows pocket aces. Yep, we are not going to be winning this one. Nice hand. In this next one, we see a under the gun limp, and the +1 player who's fairly active and he knows what he's doing. He makes it $12. We look down at king queen of hearts in the cutoff, and I'm pretty sure this +1 player just wants to play pots in position versus this other player. And granted, he could be doing this light regardless. So with a real hand and this dynamic forming, I decided to make it $36. Folds back around to the +1 player, and he decides to toss in the chips for the call. We're off to see a flop, which is pretty miserable. It comes jack 6-3, 2 spades, 1 diamond, so we have absolutely nothing. He checks it over to me, and I think we can get some folds from some better ace highs by putting in a c-bet. So I put in $25, and he pretty quickly calls. At this point, pretty done with the hand. The turn comes the 9 of spades, so we do pick up a gut shot straight draw, and we do still have 2 overcards, but there's 3 spades on board. When he checks it, I think I'm just done with his hand. I'd rather see a free river, so I check it back. The river now is the ace of clubs. He checks it over to me, and I know what you guys are thinking. This card is going to be a lot better for me. I can have all the big ace king, ace queen, those kind of hands. But against this specific player, I just have the gut feeling that he's going to be calling down light here. Especially after I check back the turn, it's hard for me to have a really strong hand here. And you never know. I think this is actually one of the few players that might put in a move here, knowing that it's hard for me to have a really strong hand on this board. So all this rambling basically is another way of me saying that I give up and check. And he tables pocket 8s. So maybe one of the few hands that would have folded the river. But nonetheless, I don't hate it. Sometimes you just have to wave the white flag. In this hand, we see a cutoff limp, the button limps. I decide to limp the small blind with jack 7 of diamonds. Probably not the best. I'm actually certain it's not the best. But hey, I'm pretty happy to see some flops here at the 1-2 game, and the big blind checks it. We're off to see a flop where I'm happy I did because it comes all diamonds. I go ahead and start off with a check. It checks over to the cutoff who bets $10. The button folds, and obviously going to be putting in a raise. I decided to make it $30. The big blind folds, gets back around to the cutoff, and once again, same player, he decides to min click me to $60. Starting the hand with around $120, I'm just going to put him all in. So that's what I do, and he pretty quickly makes the call for $60 more. We table our cards, and he has the naked ace of diamonds, so we have to fade another diamond here on the turn in the river. The turn comes a red card, but luckily it's a heart. And the river is another red card, but once again, it is another heart. So kind of a sweat of a run out seeing the red paint there, but luckily our flop flush does hold against the nut flush draw. This is going to be the biggest pot of the night. We see a cutoff limp, the button makes it 7. I'm in the small blind with pocket 2s. Of course, I'm going to get involved. If we hit a set, it's literally a gold mine. I toss in the chips, the big blind calls, and the cutoff, he decides to fold. So we're going to be going 3 ways to a flop, which it is what dreams are made of. It comes ace-6 deuce. Obviously an extremely dry board, but if you have bottom sets or a set in a raise pot with an ace on the board, normally it's going to be a pretty good situation for you. So I check it, checks over to the button, and she bets $25. Obviously, I'm going to be putting in as much money as possible, but this board is just so dry and I don't want to scare her off, so I think it's probably best to put in a raise on the turn. So I just make the call, and the big blind decides to fold. The Jack of Hearts comes on the turn. There's now 2 hearts on the board, so there's a potential flush draw along with some straight draws. I check it once again, and I'm happy to see her continue for $40. At this point, I know that she is a big hand, so I'm going to be springing the trap. I bump it up to $140. About 2 seconds after this bet was placed, she immediately goes all in for $400 total. Obviously, if she has us beat with aces, jacks, it just is what it is. I go ahead and snap call. She asks if I have a set, which is generally good news for me. Obviously I do. I immediately table my hand, and she has ace jack. Ugh, obviously just a straight up cooler. There's nothing she could have done there. The river comes a brick, and we're going to be winning a almost $1,000 pot on 1-2. In this next one, we look down at king queen offsuit under the gun. We make it $10, and we see 5 calls. So we're going to be going 6 ways to a flop. Not ideal. The flop does come king jack 5, so pretty good all things considered. I'm going to be putting in another bet of $20, and we see 2 calls. The 6 of spade looks like a pretty safe turn. Sure, it could potentially give some people 2 pairs with 5-6, but I think that's about it. Some players could have picked up straight draws, flush draws, so I'm going to size up on this one. I bet $75. Pretty sure we still have the best hand, but unfortunately no further action as both players release. With $1,100 in our stack, we are in early position with jack 8 of hearts. There's a limp. I decide to make it $12. We go ahead and see 3 callers. So we're going to be going 4 ways to a flop, which comes ace 3-9 with 2 hearts. Ace on the board, and we go ahead and flop a flush draw. Pretty good board. I decide to put in a c-bet, and we only see 1 caller. The turn comes the queen of clubs, so if he decided to call my flop bet with a hand such as 6s, 7s, 10s maybe, he's not going to be liking the queen, and even if he has a weak ace, he's probably still not going to be liking this board all that much. So he is around $300 behind, so I think I may go ahead and triple barrel this one if it comes to that. So I put out $75, but luckily he does fold pretty quickly. Last hand of the night, we're in the big blind with king 5 of diamonds. There's a raise to 12, there's 2 calls, and with a suited king, and with a lot of money in front of us, I decide to make the call. Well, the flop is, we are just running so odd. The flop comes king high with 2 diamonds. So top pair and the king high flush draw. I mean, it just doesn't get much better than this. It checks over to the player in the cutoff. He puts out $20, and I decide to make the call. The turn comes a jack, so a lot more connected now. Some straights, some 2 pairs out there. I check it, and he decides to check it back. The river is another king, so we hit a pretty disguised trips. Sure, we have a really strong hand, but I think he could very well have a king himself that pot controlled the turn. That being said though, our hand is too good, I think, to do anything other than bet ourselves. So I bet 50, and he pretty quickly calls. Expecting to not be good here sometimes, but luckily this time we are, as he pretty quickly mucks. So last hand of the night, some more run good coming our way, and we're going to go ahead and cash out. Alright guys, I gotta be honest with you. I actually left the casino, or not the casino, I left the poker room probably 2.5 hours ago, and I'm just now leaving the casino. Crazy. The reason being is because my girlfriend, she met me for a quick bite to eat. Actually, I take that back. She didn't eat, she watched me eat. And after we were done eating, which took maybe 45 minutes, 30 minutes, I gave her $20 to have fun with on the slot machines, fully expecting to lose it in like 10 minutes, just to spend a little bit of extra time with her. Oh, I pray that person's okay. I gave her $20 to mess around with on the slots. Once again, fully expecting to lose it, super quick. But I was so wrong. We were down there for I think an hour and a half, maybe like 2 hours. And we just kept on winning. Granted, at the end, we ended up losing it. Which is expected. But hey, $20 for an extra 2 hours of time with my girlfriend? That's a pretty good trade-off. Now, about the session, the poker session. I mean, there's not really any fancy plays I did, or like anything I'm super proud of. Actually, I take that back. I am proud of staying composed, staying disciplined, both pre-flop and post-flop, basically just throughout the whole session, by not bluffing as much and playing fewer hands, just narrowing your range. And I mentioned this 2 episodes ago, I think. Basically, in these smaller games, the way to beat them is just to play better hands, bluff less, and when you hit your hand, just bet. Like, it sounds so simple, but it's true. And today, even though obviously I ran hot in the deuces hand, like, that lady's never doing anything other than going all in. That's just a cooler. But hey, if I, like the other session where I lost 800, like I probably would have rebought, 2 or 3 times prior to that moment, just because I was bluffing way too much, and stack sizes are just more shallow in this game. Like in the 2-5 game, you can buy them for 200 bigs, where in this one, you can only buy them for, 150? So, I mean, it does make a difference. And note, I feel like most people at the 1-2 normally buy in for, the percentage of the people that buy in for the max is a lot lower at 1-2 than it is 2-5. So it's just a more shallow game. So even with that considered, you already have to be playing less hands. But hey, we'll take the win. A pretty good win. I think we won well over $700, putting us a good ways away in the right direction. All right, guys, I'm worn out. Common occurrence when I'm leaving the poker room. And yeah, that's it for me, guys. Appreciate you guys for tuning in as always. Let's cue the outro, and I'll see you guys tomorrow, or maybe not tomorrow, but I'll see you guys later this week with day 5. I think it's day 5. Day 5 of the challenge. See you guys.